Hello students, as you know that I am dealing with the essay Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness, and I have already completed two models of writing, women's writing and body, women's writing and language, and today I will discuss here about women's writing and psychology. So, together when we have discussion over body and language, it encompasses psyche of a woman in itself. Showalter is of the opinion that psyche of a woman is constituted out of her body, language and social milieu. The moment she declares this, and if we look at the process of socialization and upbringing of a female child, it is distinct than male child, then undoubtedly it creates impact in decision, in process of thinking, in way of behavior. So the kind of psyche, the kind of creative process you may experience or you may imagine. So meaning to say that how psyche of a woman gets constituted or psyche of anybody gets constituted. So there is always role of society, that means process of socialization is most important in the constitution of psyche. Either it's of male or of female, and when we find that female psyche is constituted, or the behavior, the education system or the food system or the garment system, in every field when we find that male and female child is treated differently, then definitely different psyche they will be holding. For example, if you see that in a family, male child is given priority and female child is not given that much opportunity and priority in her terms of education and in any other means of her life, then definitely both the child in the same family will be taking or will be having different kind of psyche. So all in all, psyche is having important role in the process of creation, which is constituted out of our cultural milieu. And whenever we start diagnosing cultural milieu, the first stage or first thing that we should look after, it is of family. So your economic status plays role, your social status plays role, your education system plays role there. And very beautifully Showalter and most of the feminists have written this very idea, like how in a strategic way women, they have internalized the body, the concept of body that is imposed on them. For example, if you are part of a culture, just as we all are part of one or another culture, so it is stated to us that what to wear and what not to wear. And if you live in your cultural community and you try to wear something different than the demand or than the sanction of your culture, at that time you start facing problem. So this is very naturally, that without any question from birth, women, they have internalized all these practices. Either it is a matter of wearing or it is matter of talking. So sex is a taboo subject matter, and many such things, like if you find a woman talking about sexuality, even not only women, I will say about male also, that in our society, if someone is talking about the sexuality, that whether hetero or homo, so it is a matter of astonishment, or you will be facing social criticism. So all these things, like how our psyche works, the kind of society we are born and brought up, accordingly our psyche gets constituted or it works. Now when we look at the example, Simone de Beauvoir has already written such a groundbreaking work that is called as The Second Sex. And in The Second Sex, she has very beautifully defined that how one is not born, rather becomes a woman, and it is an epoch-making statement where she has very beautifully tried to establish this idea that secondary roles and duties and expectations which are associated with women in the name of femininity, it is actually not natural but construction. And this is how gender construction or notion of gender comes into existence. Here it becomes pertinent to talk about Simone de Beauvoir when we are discussing women's writing and psychology, because when you are talking about the gendrical notion or the concept of gender, at that time psychology comes, and Simone de Beauvoir is the greatest feminist critique, feminist writer, who has for the first time thrown in such a way, in such a degree, light over the construction of gender. So she also writes in her work The Second Sex that actually from the very beginning, girl child and female child, male child and female child, they do not have this distinction that you are girl and I'm male and you are female, you are girl and I'm boy, this distinction, they play together and they consider to themselves equal. But this distinction starts the moment they start entering into the adolescent period, or society starts making them realize that you are male and you are female. Otherwise they play together and they enjoy their body equally, equal in degree and equal in nature. So Simone de Beauvoir very beautifully she writes that from the childhood women they are taught that the ultimate crown of a woman is marriage, and this is how they keep on waiting for the ultimate Rajkumar of their life, that one day he will come and he will carry me somewhere in the dreamland. And this is how marriage is a social reputation, and overnight a girl may be a millionaire, or maybe means very rich, I mean to say, like the kind of culture as we Indians are having so many jewelries and dresses and so on. Anyways, leaving this example, and I will move ahead and I will look after those talks which Showalter has tried to portray here. So definitely when we are talking about women's writing and women's psychology from the stance of Ellen Showalter, then she is first figure about whom she has given her statement, or she is going to talk, is Sigmund Freud. And as you know that Sigmund Freud has been already declared as a patriarchal propagandist, or a man whose all the theories are giving in one or another way primacy or foremost space to patriarchal world, to patriarchy. So in this case, what Showalter does here in psychology with Sigmund Freud, I mean to say that when you look at the because here the talk or the discourse is to take place not in general terms but in terms of theory, because in the beginning I have already made it clear to you that our examples or the whole discourse is in the field of academia. So we will be moving around that. So you know that Sigmund Freud was a psychoanalytic critic, and so there was no such conception that psychoanalytic feminist critique. I repeat here that in the past there was such an idea means psychoanalytical critiques or psychoanalytic critique. But psychoanalytic feminist criticism, there was no such terminology, right? So Showalter in this model, she tries to turn all the psychoanalytical theories into psychoanalytical feminist theories. This is how psychoanalytical theories can be declared as androcentric in nature. So psychoanalytical feminist theories will be called as gynocentric in nature. So as you already know about Sigmund Freud, that he has talked about penis envy and Oedipal phases, I have already discussed with you. And one more term that Showalter mentions here, it is a castration anxiety. So castration anxiety, just as you saw in that idea of penis envy, that women, they find lack of this particular organ in their body, and during the psychosexual stages of development, when they find that their genital is different than men, and this very thing instills among women a kind of inferiority, that we are having lack of this particular thing, and this is why they develop envious nature. So what happens now in castration anxiety? Castration anxiety, that means the similar reaction boys are having the moment they come to know about the genitals of women, that they do not have same as men are having. So this very thing enables men to feel low about women. Now if I say that through that envy concept or this castration anxiety concept, through both the ideas, you are holding this ear with this hand, or in round way you catch this particular ear with this hand, right? So in both the ways, what happens, women, they are low in the experiences of men, right? So either you talk about castration or that envy notion. In both the cases, women, they are rated low, and they are not holding any such, they are not giving any such indication through which Freud may experience that women, they can be intelligent, or they may also write something. So all in all, the Freud equal to inferior women, right? All the discourses can be equal to inferior women, and therefore their creativity, they are not creative, and if they write something, it cannot be at all example of standard writing. So let me tell you that in this particular model, Showalter has quoted such feminist critiques who can be taken into the category of psychoanalytic feminist critiques. And first name here she quotes, it's of Theodore Reik. Showalter has quoted the name of whom? Theodore Reik. So Uh, So Theodore Reich, she reframes the statement that was made by Freud from the feminist perspective. So now what is that statement that is reframed by Theodore Reich? It was Freud at the end of his career, he associated process of writing with the process of urination. And when he said so, then definitely he was intended to target the again the body parts of male and female, and he wanted to say that male, they are having linear structure of urination, so women, they are deficient in that aspect. So Theodore Reich, when she alters this statement, she says that if writing is associated with the process of urination, that women, they are having a wider bladder than men, because so women, they are more efficient in writing if it is associated with urination, because they are having bladder, their capacious, if their bladder is more capacious, that means it is wider in nature if it is associated with urination. So here it doesn't mean that Showalter wants to alter the essentialist female male essentialist theory into female essentialist theory. She just argues, she just gives argument here that look, if anybody may argue from the side of female, may say or may answer to Freud like this. So we may consider here Theodore Reich as the example of psychoanalytic feminist criticism. Now when we move ahead, and Showalter encompasses in her essay recent psychoanalytical critique. So if we are talking about recent psychoanalytical critique, then first name comes of Lacan. And as you know that in my previous video lectures, I have already discussed a lot about Lacan. Lacan is called as the French Freud, or Lacan can be taken as new Freud. Or you saw that how his models, imaginary and symbolic, giving sanction to the constitution of self in the unconscious layer of mind, and if the constitution of self is granted by him, that means definitely he has turned Oedipal phases of Freud into the language acquisition, or in the process of language learning, and this is how the construction of self takes place, and it is basically patriarchal in nature. So the solution which he has given, it's of deconstruction. So Showalter here means to say that when French feminist critiques, they have followed Lacanian footsteps, but they follow the this deconstructive path, then definitely they can be taken as example of gynocentrism, because in one or another way they are too trying to develop the feminist model of writing in their according to their philosophy. And as I have already mentioned that basic philosophical difference between Anglo-American feminist criticism and French feminist criticism. Now when we move ahead, then one thing to discuss here, and that is very important, because most of the time we talk about the anti-Freudian statements. There is one such example that is pro-Freudian statement, and it's by Miller. So before I give this example of Miller, let me exemplify one more anti-Freudian example that can be taken here, example of the psychoanalytical feminist criticism. It's of Sandra Gilbert and Susan Gubar, and as I have already discussed with anxiety of authorship, so you may take here this is against Harold Bloom. So Harold Bloom there, because he is a psychoanalytic critic, so Harold Bloom is patriarchal model, and Gilbert and Gubar's model is the matriarchal model, that means of gynocentric model. So now when I move ahead, I can take here example of this lady named Miller. So Miller talks about so as I declared her as the pro-Freudian psychoanalytical critiques. That means most of the examples that you find from the world of the female, it is in against Freud, but this first theory we find which is in favor of Freud. So as you know that Freud has written a very popular work, and name of that work is related with the creativity, and the title is with some daydreaming. I don't remember exactly title of that essay. So in that particular work, Freud has given concept of writing, like how this notion of creativity in general, it is associated with the process of dream. So you must have heard about the dream theory. Dream theory, that means Freud says that any dream that comes to you in your mind, any dream that comes to you during your sleep, it is not baseless, it has a base. So whatever you have in your mind and what you cannot achieve in your life, that comes to you through your dreams, right? So meaning to say that the moment you are having unfulfilled wishes and desires, and those desires and wishes which can't be fulfilled in reality, that you try to fulfill through your dreams. So you must have heard about the Dora case history, and many case histories he has taken, and Dora is one such popular case I just quoted here. So what happened that all the the ideas, all the practices which are not according to the norms of society or according to the propriety of society, it just gets buried under the it just gets buried in the unconscious layer of mind. So what Freud says, that the moment any expression that takes place through our conscious layer of mind, it is just transposition or transformed material, transformed state of that unconscious material, unconscious element that is there in our mind. So meaning to say that the conscious act is regulated by unconscious act. What we cannot do in real or as it is, it comes to us, we do it in transformed manner. So writing or the dream is like that. So dream is what, that what you cannot have, what you cannot fulfill in your real world, in reality, that comes to you in your dream. Same is the case of writing, which you cannot achieve in your life in real sense. Then you have this power of dream and fantasy. Just as you have power of dream, in the same way you have this fantasy, you have this imagination, and through that imagination you are having power of language, and because of that you pen down all those unfulfilled wishes and desires, and this is how writing takes place. Once again I repeat here the idea of the Miller, who is pro-Freudian psychoanalytic female critic. She talks about the creative theory of dream, creative theory of Freud, that is associated with the dream theory of Freud. That means the unconscious layer of human mind is the reservoir of the libidinal wishes. That means unfulfilled sexual desire is stored there in unconscious layer of mind, and what you cannot do in reality, that either you do through your dream, or in terms of writing you do it through your writing. So now this lady Miller, she says that gynocritical discourse or gynoskepticism is actually dependent upon entire Freudian analysis. That means she wants to suggest that this theory is byproduct, right? Once again I repeat that perhaps Miller wants to suggest that this theory is byproduct. It means this theory has not value in its own. Gynocritical theory is not important in its own way, in its own territory. Rather it is important because it has its identity in opposition to Freudian analysis. So she says that just as some of the performances we watch on TV or on screen, or the book that we read, so point is that everybody cannot be actor and everybody cannot be a writer. So that means if you have wish to do some acting but you cannot do that acting, then what you do, you just watch the actors doing acting, and in this way you gratify your passion and your desire which you cannot fulfill by your own. Same thing she says regarding the writing, that when you come when there is matter of writing, some of the readers, they are some of the people, they are called as exhaustive reader, or they are very good reader, or very critical readers, or very fine kind of readers. So these readers, they cannot write in their life, so they read the text, and on the basis of the writer expression they gratify their unfulfilled wishes and desire. So these are the examples through which you should here understand that Miller wants to prove that gynocritical theory is trying to establish just anti-patriarchal notion, and actually in reality this anti-patriarchal notion or pro-women theory can't be established because it has no identity. I should say, in fact, it has no entity in its own world. Rather, its existence is in the opposition of the Freud's theory. So she says that gynocriticism is having its identity only when there is in the background Freudian theory, right? So she says that if you look at the example of the George Mary Vance Eliot, what she does, she has, she's talking about female fantasy, or if the plot of women it is erotic. Why it is erotic? Because women, they do not have chance to fulfill their wishes and desire in their real life, so they are writing novel, and through that novel their unfulfilled wishes and desire they are trying to fulfill. So in many ways, through her examples, Miller here attacks over the gynocritical instances, right? So Showalter has quoted Miller especially in the case when she is anti-gynocritical, not pro-gynocritical. So she just wants to suggest that many such opinions you may have or you may find in this battle of theory. But the point is, or the idea that she wants to prove, that whenever we deal with the matter of psychology, there is issue of gender. And when we look at the issue of gender, that means we look after this masculinity and femininity notion, and in this masculinity and femininity notion, always male, they are given primacy over female. So it is our duty to analyze, it is our duty to diagnose those analyses which are available to us in form of tradition, in form of psychoanalytical theories, and it is the duty of the gynocritical readers and gynocritical thinkers to alter or to answer those theories. So in this way, she has just taken both the views which are in favor and which are in against. And another very important figure Showalter has quoted, her name is Nancy Todorow, and her groundbreaking work is The Reproduction of Mother, where she talks about the experiences of female as the cause of her gender. And it is that means it supports to the idea of gynocriticism. So Showalter has quoted here. All in all, what I want to say here, that means I want to conclude here, because I have already done enough talk over Freud and Lacan. So actually Showalter does here exhaustive talk over Freud and Lacan and other over Harold Bloom, but I have delivered separate lecture on them. So I want to conclude it here, that it's okay that when you are analyzing women's writing, women's psyche, analysis over women's psyche is most important, most significant. But you cannot understand psychology of women, you cannot understand body of women, you cannot understand the real graph of the language of women unless you enter into the cultural domain. So you know that the last point which Showalter is going to discuss, it is women's writing and women's culture. And women's culture, it encompasses or it covers all the above discussed three models of writing, that means body, language and psyche. So it is very important to go through the women's writing and women's culture if you want to have conclusion or clear-cut picture of the gynocritical model of writing. Because when you enter in the cultural model, then woman is not only a woman in difference to man, rather a woman incorporates in herself many other identities, and that identity can be the identity of race, of nationality, of caste, of economy, many other differences come. So gender is not only factor in terms of writing. And till now the discussion we did, that is in terms of body, language and psyche, it is gendrical in nature. Whereas when we will go to the culture will come out of the, not come out of the gender, but gender will be one of the factors there, not whole sole factor, but one of the factors. So let me come in my next video, and perhaps that will be the last one, women's writing and women's culture, and I will compile all the ideas there. I don't know how much interest you people are taking in this Ellen Showalter Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness. You must be thinking that I am giving a very long lecture, but no, if you honestly turn the pages of your essay, you will understand that how long this essay, and it is very problematic to deal with one model in just 20 or 25 minutes. Anyways, I am doing my job. Thank you.